Welcome back to The Source of the Rings, where we look at the signs, codings, and real-life inspirations behind characters in the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. I've decided for this series to split into 3 seasons, each focusing on the major 3 works that take place in Middle-earth. Continuing the first season on The Hobbit, today I'd like to talk about one of my favorite side characters, Beorn. The mystery man of the Misty Mountains, Beorn is one of the more mysterious figures in The Hobbit. We get a bit of an explanation about where he may have originated, but he's not given a history or people group of which he's a member. What we do know, though, is that he has black hair, lives in a longhouse, is a vegetarian, has many animal friends, and can turn into a black bear. In The Hobbit, he hosts the company of Thorin in his home and lends them mounts to the edge of the Mirkwood Forest. He was initially apprehensive about helping them, but upon verifying their story, he trusts them, even if he remains relatively grim. He later appears in the Battle of Five Armies, where his ursine form proves destructive against the goblin forces. Following Thorin's quest, Beorn becomes a, quote, great chief, end quote, and forms a long-lasting group called the Beornings, who are skin changers like him. So, for me, when I hear Longhouse, my mind immediately jumps to the Haudenosaunee, who literally have Longhouse in their name. You may know them as the Iroquois. But, of course, you might say Beorn is based off from Norse folklore. After all, he's named after a man who changes into a bear. This is likely part of what inspired Tolkien to create a character that can change into a bear, and to name him as such. But remember, as I said in my video on Gandalf, many Norse names were used in The Hobbit. But while I believe the shape-shifting may have been inspired by Norse mythology, I don't believe Beorn's character was. The humans that turn into bears in Norse mythology are a lot more like the stereotypical werewolf, unable to control forms, changing into a wild bear against the will at moonlight. In contrast, Beorn, though gruff, is highly intelligent, and he chooses when to enter beast mode. But I also think there's more, suggesting that Beorn has Native American origins as well. First off is his hair color. While there are some Norse folks with black hair, in the times in which the original Beorn appeared, it was both rarer and discouraged, often leading to bleaching. Of course, Beorn's bear fur is significant as well. Beorn transforms into a black bear. There are no black bears in Europe, save, I suppose, some likely held in zoos. Both black hair and black bears are relatively common in America, however. Furthermore, Beorn becoming a chief and uniting the various clans that live near him is reminiscent of Hiawatha, a Haudenosaunee historical figure. If you're only aware of Hiawatha through the Henry Wadsworth Longfellow poem, you really don't know Hiawatha. Longfellow took the Onondaga name and transposed it over poorly retold Ojibwe legends. The real Hiawatha was an orator that helped unite the 5 tribes of the Haudenosaunee under one people. Hashtag Henry Wadsworth Wrongfellow. The title of chief doesn't really describe the Norse folk, nor does the individual that eventually unified Norway go by the term chief. But chief is an English term used to describe sachems, the leaders in Iroquois. The Haudenosaunee also have a bear clan, and the role that Beorn plays in assisting the dwarves is reminiscent of the role of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy played in the American Revolutionary War. Not eager to help the British, but resolving to join them in a fight against a greater enemy. Furthermore, Beorn had the place where he lived taken from him by goblins, and joins the dwarves in ousting the invaders. It sounds like a what-could-have-been scenario of the American Revolutionary War. Beorn is still definitely treated as another, but he also has great humanity. Since there isn't any Haudenosaunee legend about people turning into bears, it doesn't feel appropriative like it does in Twilight. It might be a stretch, but the fact that it's a longhouse and a black bear, even though adaptations portray it as a brown bear, really makes me think that Beorn was inspired by the Haudenosaunee. We also have record of J.R.R. Tolkien saying that he enjoyed reading stories about Native Americans when he was younger, admittedly using outdated terms. But I recognize that I may recognize the longhouse being a Haudenosaunee invention isn't necessarily something that all of the adapters of The Hobbit would do. But as I've said before in this series, one of the reasons that Tolkien's works are so well loved is because they can apply to so many groups. And for me, I see Beorn as a character who had his land taken away from him, yet still decides to, rather than resolve himself to bitterness or hatred, build a better community for tomorrow. And I see something in that perhaps not everybody does. That's just me, though. Thank you.